Hey, I'm in Las Vegas, and today we're going to talk about self-motivation and motivating other people. So, hey, guess what I'm reading today? I don't know. This book probably shows up backwards. Is that better? I don't know. I wanted to talk tonight about the concept of you can't motivate other people. Because I think that's what you and I in leadership get paid to do, is motivate other people. And I want to talk about some of the ways to do that, give you some tips on how to motivate other people and express your leadership and, accomplish some of your goals. How you get your dream to work is get your we to work, get a team going, get some people going where you want to go, being on the same path, being as excited as you are and pulling for you. And when you get enough people doing that, guess what? You get some people who are actually more powerful and more excited and more competent than you are. And then, the gold rush comes because you couldn't stop it if you wanted to. You just get this huge momentum happening. And so let me talk a little bit about motivating other people. So people fall into basically three categories. And these are rough numbers, but they're accurate enough for conversation. So the first group is what I call the 3%ers. And the 3%ers, that'd be like 3 out of 100 people. They were gifted from their parents or just good fortune, maybe bizarre, crazy genes, with, this attitude that they can do anything. They're at peace, they have joy, they're powerful, they're ambitious. It doesn't mean necessarily they pursue financial abundance, but whatever it is that they pursue in life, they just don't have any question that they can achieve it. And when they're faced with, okay, here's the path, here's the plan, here's what you're going to have to do every day, they just get it done. And it's not like these people aren't busy already because they have their whole day filled up just like everybody else. But what they do when they're proposed an opportunity, when, could be any kind of opportunity, but when something additional is put in front of them is, hey, would this interest you in doing this? What they just do is an immediate reprioritization of everything on their plate. And they decide, is this new thing you're offering me going to be more fun and more beneficial and honor my values more than what I got on my plate right now? And they just do an immediate quick scramble of that, and they kick something off their plate. Something that up until that time was important. That's why people are busy. So these 3%ers, they're just gifted with the way their brain works is when they decide they want something. So it kind of goes in these segments. So you see something, maybe you see a new car, you want it. Maybe you see a business opportunity, you want to succeed in it. Maybe you see a relationship and you want that relationship. It could be anything you want. It could be, a successful public speaking career. It doesn't matter what it is, but when people see something they want, what the 3%ers have is what I call creative interpretations or green lights. So they see an opportunity, they see a circumstance, and what they make up, creative interpretations, is that they can do this, that it's going to work out good for them. So, for example, when, if they need somebody on their team, if they need to build a team, when they see a list of potential candidates to be on their team, the conversation that they have, that's the creative interpretation, is, oh, they're going to love joining my team. They're going to love hearing about this. This is going to be great. So when you have that kind of creative interpretation, that's what we call a green light. I mean, just think about you and your business. And, if you have a list of candidates that you want to talk to about getting on your team, if the way you thought about those candidates was, oh, they're going to be excited to hear from me, they're going to be interested in this, they're probably going to want to join, they could be one of my best people. How long would it take you to call them? I mean, would you be like, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I thought about it, but I forgot. Oh, it's too late. Oh, they're probably not going to be. No. How long would it take you to call them if you had creative interpretations that led to green lights? Boom, you'd call them right now. And what would your energy be when you called them? Would it be, oh, gee, this is Richard. I don't know. Did I bother you? Is this a good time? I don't know. Maybe you probably heard of some pyramid scheme or something, and you don't want, but, could I tell you, is that how you talk to them? Or would you be like, hey, Mary, I got something you and I need to talk about. Let's meet. Come on. This is going to be awesome. Right? And that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because imagine you're on the other side. You're a candidate. You're not, you have no idea. Your friend's about to call you and tell you about an opportunity. So, everybody that we prospect pretty much gets blindsided with, hey, I got something I want to show you. And, here's this offer. I want you to join me in business, or I want you to try my products, or, people aren't expecting that from their friends. So we tend to like sideswipe people. We surprise them. And, if you surprise people and you're like Debbie Downer, well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They may not think it consciously, but unconsciously they think, well, I hear what she's saying, but I don't get it. Doesn't sound very exciting to me. And so they don't join. But when you call people and you're on fire, what do they get from that? What's the communication? Well, this sounds awesome. So at least I want to look. So that's the 3%ers. The 3%ers aren't somebody that we need to motivate or work with. What we need to do is simply build a team big enough so it's got like 100 people on it. Here's what happens when you get 100 people on your team. You probably have 3 people that are as or more powerful at building teams as you. I mean, if you built a team of 100 people, you're one of them. And if you got 100 people on your team, the odds are you got 3. You could have 5, you could have 1, you could have 2. But the odds are you got 3 other people just like you. And if you built a team of 100 people and you coach them and show them what you did, well, they got the horsepower and the creative interpretations and green lights to build a team of 100 people. And if you built 100 and each of them go out and build 100, how big's your team? It's 400 people. And so in the art of building asset income and network marketing, one of the things that happens at a team somewhere around 250 to 500 people, there's no science to it. It's kind of an art. A lot of things depend on what the number is. But 400 is certainly right in the middle of the sweet spot. Something that happens when you build a team of 400 people is the thing just runs away from you. It just grows in spite of you. Doesn't mean you get to retire. It doesn't mean that people don't need you anymore. But you got enough people on your team. You got 400 people times 3%. That's 12 people, right? I think you get 12 people. You got 12 people plus you that are superstars, 12 people that are self-motivated, 12 people that whatever they want, they see, an award, they see a contest in the company, they see recognition, they see stage time, they see somebody who's built a huge empire in the company. Like, they read about somebody in your company that's got 250,000 people on their team. They just decide, well, I want to do that. But the important thing is they not only decide they can do it, but they know they can. So when you got 400 people on your team, you got 12 superstars. You've got like an Olympic, I don't know, that's a little over a baseball team, right? Or a football team. You got a SWAT team when you get 400 people. So what's the magic to getting 400 people? Well, really just get 100. Just get 100 and look for the leadership and fan the fire. But what about the other 97% of the people? How do they break out? Well, about 47% of them, and that's a really rough number, they want to better their station in life. They want to have more fun. They want to have more adventure. They want to have more relationships. They want to have more abundance, more peace, more of everything. They want all of that. But the missing for them is they don't know how to motivate themselves. It wasn't a natural gift. They think, oh, I want that. But then the trouble is the conversation that comes behind it, the creative interpretations. It's not all green lights. In fact, it's mostly red lights. Some green lights enough to, the 47%, those are the ones who actually sign up. You show them the opportunity or you show them the product and they go, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. So they got enough green light to sign up. But then when the tough get going, those people don't get going. What their creative interpretations sound like is, well, I've talked to 7 people and nobody wants to do this, or, the last 3 people I enrolled quit, or I don't have time, or this is too hard, or it's not going to work out anyway. In essence, like, a big motto for me is the work is worth it. You got to believe the work is worth it or you don't do the work. The 47%ers don't believe the work is worth it, not deep in their heart. They want the work to be worth it. They want things to work out and pay off. So they try. And if you look at your sales organization, what you'll find is about half the people in your sales organization are trying. They show up for events, they show up for conference calls, they try to promote the products, they try to build a team, And what does that look like? Well, they take, a couple of steps forward and then 3 steps back, and then they take 2 months off, and then, they struggle. And sometimes, those people break through. One of the ways people like that break through is one of the great gifts, if you're in network marketing, is that a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 in network marketing can sponsor a 10. And that's exactly how I made it in network marketing. I was a total 2. A total 2. The only thing that made me a 2 is I was still doing it. I was out there, doing meetings and talking to people, and I hadn't quit. And, I probably got 1 point for that, and I got 1 point for I was full time. That's the fastest way to grow broke. Be a 47%er and go full time. Can you imagine that? So by the time I actually made it, I was driving a borrowed car, living in a studio apartment, with a fold-out bed and a folding card table and a folding chair. And, I was 2,000 miles away from anybody I knew and anything I knew. And I was like alone in the world. But then guess what? A customer wanted some more product. I took him some more product. He said, is there any money in this? I showed him the opportunity. And guess what he was? Just guess what he was. You can drop it in the comments if you can guess what he was. His name is Jerry. Guess what Jerry was? So you got 3%ers, you got 47%ers, and then you got 50%ers. Guess what Jerry was? Drum roll, drop it in the comments. He was a 10. Thank you, Regina. He was a 10. Jerry looked at this big mess that I wrote on the yellow pad in the Village Inn in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. 4 who get 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 4 till I ran out of paper. And he said, I can do that. He said, I can do that. He wanted to do it, and he said, I can do that. And I'd never heard anybody say I can do it with as much conviction as Jerry did. So guess what? He went on and did it. So triers do make it at times. That was basically what I was doing, is trying. And I had done enough personal development work at that point, so I got a whole hour-long story about how I manifested Jerry Schaub, which, maybe I'll do on a live someday. There's a whole lot of lessons about success in there. But here's the point about the 47% of your organization that are struggling, is they do have the opportunity to be a 2 that enrolls a 4, or a 2 that enrolls a 7, or a 2 that enrolls a 10. And so that struggle can be part of the process. And then the last group, the third group, is about the 50%ers. And the 50%ers, they worry mostly, they wish a lot, they whine a lot. And they pretty much stand around and watch and wonder what happened. What, weren't you at the same rank I was at the last event? Yeah. And now you're like 4 ranks up? Yep. And they're like, what happened? And, I have empathy for those people, and they're also humorous, entertainment at times, because, we've all been in that place at some time or another where we're just at the bottom of the barrel, and we just can't even get out of our own way. So the point of this live is, can you motivate other people? Can you motivate a 50%er? Can you motivate a 40%er? And the answer to that is absolutely you can. I want to read you a quote from Mach 2, one of my favorites. It's, we hope vaguely but dread precisely. Think about that. We hope vaguely but dread precisely. So the people, the 3%ers, just flip it. The 3%ers, they hope precisely, if you can use the word hope. I'm not a big fan of the word hope, but you get what he means with the word hope. They hope precisely. In other words, they have crystal clear vision about what they want, and they dread vaguely. So they may worry and they may have dreads, but it's vague. It's not crystallized. So if you just think about that, we hope vaguely, but we dread precisely. And that was by Paul Valéry, 1871 to 1945, a French poet, essayist, and critic. So profound. So how do you motivate somebody that's not motivated? How do you motivate a 40%, 45%, or 47%? They're actually the easier ones to motivate than the 50%ers. But how you do it is very, very simple. You just actually deploy the art of vision and self-motivation. They don't know how to do it. Their parents didn't teach them how to do it. It's not a natural way of thinking for them, but you can walk them through that just by asking them some questions. So, let's say you've got a 47%er on your team that's been on it for, let's say, I don't know, a year, and they're struggling and they're not getting anywhere, and they're not at all in the same state of being now that they were when they joined the company. And you're thinking, how do I motivate this person? What do I say? Here's a simple question. Just ask, let's see. Okay, Dixon, he's watching. I will just ask Dustin. Hey, Dustin, I'm curious. Tell me, if you will, what had you join this opportunity to begin with? So take me back to a year ago when you joined. Let's talk about the conversation. Tell me where you were, who your sponsor is, what did your sponsor say? This is like a guided visualization, if you will. Just by asking the questions, you lead somebody to remember, okay, I go back to that place. Now I want you to remember what the conversation was and what inspired you to join. And most importantly, what did you think you could create here? That's what I want to know is, what was your green light? What was your creative interpretation? What did you say to yourself, I can do? And speak that to me again. Tell me what it is you hoped for, if you will, by joining the opportunity. And so, Ryan is up here now. So Ryan, I would say, Ryan, tell me that. And he would say, well, I'd hope to make an extra $1,000 a month and pay off my debts. Great. So then I might ask, is that still important to you? And of course, he's going to say, well, yeah, it is important to me. And I would ask, why? Why is it important to you? And so what I'm doing by these questions is I'm richening the vision. I'm adding clarity to the vision. And if you've read Mach 2, you know how the process works. You know how the art works. You know how the science works. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. It's just a matter of giving clarity to an idea. So if you say to somebody, pay off my debts, well, that has a certain kind of clarity. But if the vision is, I'm going to pay off all my debts, then to add clarity, I want to know, well, how much debt do you have? So if somebody says, I want to pay off all my debts, and that's $15,000, that's a certain level of clarity that's much higher than I just want to pay off my debts, right? 15,000 quantifies it. It's much more clarity. So another way to clarify it is, okay, that $15,000 in debt, Ryan, how much interest are you paying on that every month? Well, at 20%, that's like $3,000 a year. That's like $250 a month. So let me get this straight, Ryan. You're paying $250 a month to the man, to some bazillionaire who's on a private island who loves debt. You know why he loves debt? Because he owns it. And the reason you don't love debt is you owe it. Debt is an awesome thing. You just got to own it. But you're wiring $250 a month to this guy every month, or this gal, mostly probably gals, every month, and you're getting nothing for it. So then, see how that raises the level of clarity? And then the next question I might ask him is, or her is, what could you do with $250 a month right now? Which is actually after tax money, tax-free. What would you do with $250 a month if, let's say, you started making $250 a month in this opportunity, your company sent you $250 every month, what would you do with it? And don't let people get off the hook by saying, oh, I don't know. Well, then, one of my trick questions is, well, if you did know. Because they do know, they just want time to think about it. So just stay in there, lead people, coach people. And so have them say, well, $250, and remember, you can't pay off your debts because you already got them paid off. So once you get these debts off, you got $250 a month freed up, extra money. What are you going to do with it? What would it be like to have that money? And you get somebody to say, well, maybe I'd save for a vacation. Well, great. That's like $3,000 a year. So where can you and your family go for $3,000 a year? You know how many families have as their number one bucket list go to Disneyland or Disney World? You can certainly go to Disneyland or Disney World for $3,000 as a family. So let's say that's that family's dream, and that goal is, oh, we could go to get Disneyland. Well, Mary, not only could you go to Disneyland, but you could go to Disneyland every year. You could go with the whole family every year for $3,000. So what's your favorite ride at Disneyland? Have you ever been to Disneyland? Yes, no, whatever the answer is, doesn't matter. What's your favorite ride at Disneyland? Magic Mountain. Okay, so we're talking about vision here. Okay, so the first question was, why'd you get involved in the company? Well, to pay off my debts. That's a certain level of vision, has a certain clarity, has a certain power to motivate. And 5 minutes later, we're talking about their favorite ride is Magic Mountain. And what's your favorite thing about the ride? Well, the idea that when you hit the water at the bottom, it splashes in your face. You get the difference? This is how you motivate people. So it's just a series of questions. And what you're doing with these series of questions is, if you can think about it. So think about this. Okay, you walked up to Mary. Mary's somebody on your team. She's been on your team for a year. You walk up to her at a meeting, or you call her up on the phone, or you text her or message her and say, hey, can we have a conversation? What I want you to think about is what Mary is thinking about, what her vision is, what's going through her mind before you start this inquiry. And I can promise you, if she's a 50%er, if she's struggling, if she's negative, if she's worrying, she's not thinking about Magic Mountain. Not Magic Mountain, but I don't know. Is that a ride? Whatever the ride is at Disneyland that goes through the water. Magic Mountain is another theme park. But she's not thinking about that. She's not thinking about the $250 a month she could save for a vacation. She's not thinking about all of her debts paid off. What she's actually thinking about is how her debts are crushing her. That's what she's thinking about. She's got a vision, but it's basically a vision to be small and to be crushed and to be worried and to be sick and to be helpless and to be resigned about her debt. That's her vision. She might as well write it down. She might as well pull pictures out of magazines of being crushed and worried and, overcome and having your home repossessed. You might have pictures of that all over your house. You might as well stand up every morning and recite, I'm depressed, I'm being crushed by death, I'm losing my house. You might as well it's a vision. So you might as well treat it like a vision, because it is ruling your life like a vision. So my point is, when you first start this conversation with Mary, what do you think she's talking about or thinking about in her mind? It's not Splash Mountain. Thank you for whoever gave me that. It's not Splash Mountain. It's debt. That's what she's thinking about. So in a conversation of 5 minutes, you can change Mary's body chemistry. So here's the way the body operates as an organism, as a being, the reason human beings rule the world, which is not necessarily a good thing, because we also invented plastic, right? So, but the reason we rule the world is the way our organism works, all the way through this brain, the brain in our gut, which is another mind, our emotions, our body chemistry is. What separates us from all the other animals in the kingdom is we have the gift of creative thought. We get to choose what we want to think. So when you ask these questions, so you're actually leading Mary through the conversation. You're leading Mary to choose what to think by asking the question. She can't ignore the thought because you asked the question. So you asked the question, why did you join to begin with? What were you looking for to begin with? The thought is there. I mean, she's got to answer the question, at least in her mind. She doesn't have to tell you, but she's going to visit the thought in her mind. You actually made the choice by asking the question. She's got the thought. As soon as she has the thought, pay off debt. Maybe you take it to one level more and you say, what will that feel like to have your debts paid off? And she can then answer, whoosh. She's demonstrating why human beings rule the earth, because she chose a thought of having her debts paid off. And that triggers an automatic, seamless, immediate chain reaction in this being. And the chain reaction is, first there's a thought. And the way you and I think is we think in words. Some of them are words, but the ones that are really powerful thoughts are the pictures or the little mini clips of a movie. So we have a thought, which is like a picture or a little movie that we watch. And then based on that story and our orientation to that story, the context of that story, it immediately triggers in our body to release chemicals and release hormones that change our state, change our physical power level, change our enthusiasm, change everything. And we can go from being curled up on the couch to conquering a mountain in 5 minutes by being empowered. Emotion is those hormones. It's those body chemistry. It's the chemicals that are flushed into our bloodstream that turn us in to the powerhouses that move mountains, that say, you know, we're going to the moon. I promise you, it wasn't, John F. Kennedy was not depressed, curled up on the couch, worrying and thinking that, you know, life wasn't going to work out at all for him as president when he said, we're going to the moon. Martin Luther King was not depressed and worried and resigned when he said, I have a dream. So these are the kinds of people throughout all of the history of man. Michelangelo, Steve Jobs, you know, these are the people who said, I'm going to create something that's going to change the world. And they empowered their bodies to do it. So how do you motivate somebody? Can you and I motivate some? Can we motivate people? That's our job. That's job number one. If you're a leader, your job is to motivate people. Now, how do you do that? Well, you cast a vision of where you're going. We talked about this the other day. You cast a vision of where you're going. You create a vision that other people want to go with you. And then realize that you're going to have some 50%ers that say, okay, where do I sign? I'm fired up today. So they sign up. You got some 47%ers who say, yeah, let's go. But, you know, a week later, they're struggling. And every once in a while, you get a 3%er who just knocks it out of the park. And so that's team building. So your job as a team builder is you're not going to get it done with just the 3, right? Because you don't know where the 3 are going to come from. Your 3%ers could come from some of your 50%ers. They could come from some of your 47%ers. So your job as a leader is to motivate everybody, to keep everybody in the game, to keep somebody like me at the age of 22 who was, you know, sick and broke and tired and depressed and angry and didn't know anybody and didn't have any credibility. I had people that kept me in the game because they motivated me. Some of those people I knew, some of those people were just on audio tape. And that's our job. Our job as leaders is to motivate people. And we don't motivate people by telling them what to do. Sometimes we can tell them what they can do by building belief, but the real art in motivating people is to ask them questions. Ask them questions that turn on the green light, change their body chemistry, flood their bloodstream with hormones, get them back on fire, and then make a request of them, which is, okay, now that you've got, you know, Splash Mountain back on your mind, are you ready to get back to work? And very often they'll say yes. And that's when you give them direction. That's when you say, okay, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to do tomorrow. You can't ask somebody who's in a funk to do something they're not used to doing or they're not good at doing, right? You can't ask people, hey, go to a meeting. You know, oh, I'm all depressed. This isn't working for me. Well, go to an event. I don't want to go to an event, right? You can't ask people to, okay, well, you know, go talk to 3 people tomorrow. They're not going to talk to 3 people. You got to get people motivated before you put an obstacle in front of them, before you put the path in front of them. You got to get them back on fire. You got to return them to the state in which they were in when they signed up to begin with, because that's the state where they said, like my Jerry Schaub, I can do this. You got to bring them back to that state, bring them back to that story, bring them back to that place and time. And just like any memory that you have, if you have a memory that's a real powerful memory or a real sad memory, and I ask you enough questions about revisiting that, you're going to feel how you felt on that day, right? So that's how you motivate people. Just take them back to the time when they were the most on fire. It might be the day they enrolled. It might be the day they advanced in some rank. It might be the day that they enrolled some superstar. Ask them enough questions. Ask them to tell you a story. Take them back to that place and time where they were the most empowered in whatever it is you're leading them in doing. And then when you get them back in that peak state, then ask them to do what they need to do tomorrow to move things forward. And you'll be talking, at least in the moment, to a motivated person. And how do you get them to do it for themselves? Well, you know, one of the ways you could do it is you could get all the people that are like committed to doing something at all, get them a Mach 2, do a 30-day book study club. Do a program where everybody's reading a chapter every 3 days, and every 3 days you have a Zoom and you talk about the chapter, and you have everybody in the program create a new vision. And then, you know, the next week you have everybody go out and get videos and pictures and create a vision board. And the next week you have everybody record a video of their vision. So they have that, visual in their face. And you teach them the art of vision and self-motivation. Do it in a group process. And so you don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. I wanted to read a couple more of my favorite quotes. This is from Arthur Koestler, 1905, 1983. He wrote the book, The Sleepwalkers. Every creative act involves a new innocence of perception, liberated from the cataract of accepted belief. Maybe somebody can put this in the comments so you can contemplate it because it's deep. This is Arthur Koestler, Koestler, from The Sleepwalkers. Every creative act involves a new innocence of perception. Every creative act involves a new innocence of perception, liberated from the cataract of accepted belief. Liberated from the cataract of accepted belief. Think about that. So profound. You and I are stuck in our beliefs. We're stuck in that conversation. And unless somebody comes by and thumps our bowl, like flicks us on the ear or asks us some profound questions, or gets in our face with some tough love, or we get thrown in an opportunity where everybody around us is on fire and going after something exciting in life. One of the most awesome things about network marketing is you take these 97%ers that out in the world, in the competitive world, alone in business, they're not going to be inspired to like break out and do something extraordinary. But you drop them in a group of people that are super on fire. They're by osmosis. They learn to believe in themselves. The reason we bring 50 people to an event like the Most Powerful Women in Network Marketing tomorrow is they're going to be dropped into 5,000 on-fire women from around the world who are all pursuing the same thing. And they obviously have all different levels of belief and inspiration. But I'll guarantee you that room this weekend is going to be 1,000,000 times more belief building and inspiring than if these 50 women and a couple men that are here were at home watching TV, right? So that's the power of events. We'll talk about that some other night. All right, folks, thanks for joining me tonight. Have a super powerful weekend. Hey, gang, have a great weekend. I love you. Over and out.